And here we go with Coach Lovell out of San Antonio Antonian. We're coming up on cross country season, and Coach, I must say the record is impressive. As far as your boys team is concerned, state titles, cross country 2010, 11, 12, 13, 15, 17, 18, 19. The only 2 years you didn't, you came in second place in 14 and 16. So the real question right off the bat is, what's the secret?
Well, yeah, I don't think there is a secret. I think people ask me all the time, I mean, how do you keep them going? I just try to line them up. That's the best I can do. This is what I think you should be doing. If they buy into the system, then they'll do the right thing. I think for us, if I were to say there's one particular thing that I think we do probably better than most, is the summer workouts. I think that is the bridge that gets us from where we are to where we want to be. And if you have a good summer, and we get about 80% of our kids come out during the summer, I mean, you're going to be successful just because of that alone.
So tell me about your summer workouts. Maybe not this summer in particular.
I'm sorry, I live by the airport, so I got many planes that fly over my head here. So.
Quite all right. So tell me about this summer or a regular summer, maybe not this summer with COVID-19, but in a regular summer, what is it that takes place with your athletes?
Yeah, I think it's just building the foundation, building their mileage base up, really working on them become a team, working for each other, working for the people that have been at Antonian before and set this program forward years and years and years ago. And, they have a responsibility not only to themselves and their teammates, but the people that came before them. And they take that on, and they want to be state champions. And that makes it easy for me, because then I can just basically roll out the ball and here we go. All right, here we go. We're going to get after it, get it done. And that's always been, I've used the same thing for years. And I think that communication with them, helping them understand where you need to be today versus where you need to be in 12 weeks or 16 weeks or 18 weeks, however long the season's going to be, here's a plan. And if you stick to that plan, good things will happen. If you don't, well, you may still get there, but there's a chance that you won't. And if you do all the what ifs correctly, right? If you take out all the what ifs, is what I'm trying to say, and just do what you need to do, then the chances of being successful are going to be much greater for you.
All right, so let's talk specifically this summer. Obviously, it's been a strange year since spring break forward. Have you communicated with your team this summer? Have you seen their workouts or guided anything?
Yes, I can tell you, just to talk about as we move track, when track ended, I think for me, just to kind of break off the question here a little bit, and you can cut this out if you need to later, but this is the longest I've ever been away from any of my teams. I mean, it's been, if this is what retirement is like, then I ain't doing it, right? I'm gonna die doing this stuff. But yeah, we were able to get back. We did a lot of virtual calls and stuff like that during the pandemic, which is still going on, but during the end of March, April, May, what we're going to do is starting in June, those kind of things. We use Final Surge, which I don't get paid by them, but I think it's a great program. I'm allowed to go in there and put workouts in there for them. They have it connected to their watches, or they can manually input stuff, and that comes right to me. I can communicate to them directly. I can see where they've run, how fast they've run, how many miles they've done. So it's a really good tool for me when I can't see them, so I know what they're doing, and I can communicate with them through the app itself. So it's a wonderful app. It's inexpensive, and I find it to be very useful in one of our tools. Now, we do have on-campus stuff going on, so I've been able to see them a lot more now than I did, obviously, during April, May, and then June. So right. We're back on campus. We have camps going on, stuff like that. So obviously, I'm allowed to see them a little bit more now than I have in the past. But at least we got that going for us, and it helps us communicate with each other.
How is training going so far?
I think it's good. There's a lot of families out there, which I totally understand, have some concerns about kids being around each other, and so it's nowhere near what it normally is.
Mhm.
There's not as many kids that show up on a regular basis, and that's okay. When you have stuff like final surge, it makes it really easy for you. So you can still see that they're doing stuff, and if they're not, you can also communicate with them as well. Hey, I didn't see submit anything today. Everything going okay? So it just depends on what the day is and what the parents' perception of the state of COVID has told you for the last few weeks. So not as many been coming out as they were earlier. So
When we get into the cross country season, and obviously your team is affected like every single other team, what do you think, or who do you think actually will be the strength of this year's team?
like on our team or just in
On,
general?
on your team, the Antonian boys, who are we looking out for?
Yeah. I mean, I think the experience that the kids have. I mean, we return everybody. Well, I think we lost one senior. He was our seventh guy last year. We returned everybody from a pretty good team last year, and
Wow.
I think they feel pretty confident that they can do the things to make themselves successful. Um, we always tell them. We always talk about. Listen, don't try to be the best team in San Antonio. Don't try to be the best team in TAPS. Don't try to be the best team in the state. Try to be the best team you can be, period, no matter what that is. If it's better than those or less than those, then that's okay too. But always want to be your best. If you be your best, then good things are going to happen for you. And that's something we've always preached to them. I mean, just be the best you can be. I think the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine, whatever that thing is, I've always loved that slogan. And so we've used that for years. Be the best you can be.
Will cross country look any different this year? Are meets going to have fewer teams, et cetera, et cetera?
I think so. That's one thing that I'm a little concerned about. I know that UIL has put in some new restrictions. I think 8 teams for a UIL meet.
Correct.
And from what I understand, that they only want to have varsity and not JV or some semblance of that. So finding meets that we'd want to go to before we've gone to Chili Pepper. We can't do that because of travel. We had planned on going back to Corpus this year. That's not going to happen because of travel. So now we're trying to find local meets, and a lot of these local meets, especially the big schools that we like to compete against, well, their whole district is going to be in their meet, and that's going to be 8 teams or more. So for us to find a meet is going to be difficult throughout the season. So we may have to drive outside of San Antonio a little bit to find some smaller meets that, will work, but not what we're used to. We'll just say that.
Fair enough. And TAPS, like UIL with its executive board, obviously had a lot of stress in making their decisions. Are you on board with the way TAPS handled the decision making, and do you agree with their calendar now for cross country?
To be honest, Stuart, I was just glad that we had a chance to have a season.
Right.
I never knew for the longest time. And, when the first date came out, I think it was maybe the 26th was the first week for a meet. And then you're going to race on I think October 28th or whatever date that was for the state meet, which was make a 5-week season. It was going to be short. You're going to have to get your stuff done. Then UIL comes out with theirs, and it's a little bit more expanded. I mean, they're going into December. And then TAPS comes back, and I think, they did due diligence. Let's look at it again. Let's see if we can make it a little bit better for those kids. And they will move it back a week and then start earlier. So you're getting, I think I counted maybe 12 or 13 weeks if you start school on August 17th. So, I mean, that's doable. And
Right.
that gives kids a fair shot to to be successful and to be at meets, especially those seniors that they already lost track season last year, and now they're going to, have to come up and deal with whatever the season would be this year in cross country. So, and who knows about track? We'll worry about that later on. But, at least they have the opportunity. And that's what I was happy with. I mean, give us the opportunity, and they did. And so I was super excited about that.
Yeah, I agree with you. They did a really nice job considering the circumstances and what they had to deal with. I mean, it's about as good a situation as you can ask for.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I was happy. I mean, like I said, I was excited just to be able to have the opportunity to have our kids compete. So that was. It's been too long already. You know how that goes. It's
no doubt.
Too long.
No doubt. And you mentioned something a moment ago, trying to find meets. On our Twitter page, I've been seeing all sorts of schools. Hey, I need a meet. It's like walking outside a stadium looking for tickets. How is it, or how are you handling the schedule for this year?
Yeah, it's now my philosophy may be a little bit different. I don't like to go to a lot of meets. I think we can train really, really hard on some days and not have the stress of a meet. So we typically don't race as much as some of the other schools do. I'm the athletic director, and I get to make that decision. So that works for me, right? So it doesn't always work that way for other schools. So, but in the end, it is difficult. And I have reached out to every school within, I think, 90 miles or 100 miles of San Antonio, just asking the question, hey, listen, are you still having a meet? If so, when is it? And do you have any opens? And right now I'm at 0. So hopefully we get to, because everything's still changing. Even the UIL schools that I've talked to, they're uncertain on what their athletic directors tell them they can do and what they can't do. And so I have a pretty good group of people that will let me in if they can. And so it's just one of those things. We just have to wait and see. And I haven't heard responses from everyone, but I know a couple had said we're already full, but and that's mostly the public schools. We're going to do our 8, and that's all we can do. And what makes it tough too is if it's really true that UIL is not allowing JV to compete at the same meet,
right?
Then I've got to find even more meets for the kids that are just as important to our program, the JV and other kids. So, that's going to be another task. So we're going to work at it. If we have to drive somewhere, we have to drive somewhere. And the problem with driving now, and this, is that we may have to ask parents to drive their kids, just because of the situation of buses and kids and buses and all those kind of things, that all kinds of new rules and regulations that we have. But we'll make it work. I mean, we'll do the best we can for our kids and give them the opportunity to race when we can.
You've been coaching for a while now, and let's say it's a couple of weeks from now, we're at our first meet. Do you still get nervous?
I'm probably, and this, Stuart, I think you're setting me up on this one, but I am super nervous all the time. I think that for me is that I want to see my kids do well, and when they don't do well, I take a lot of that out on myself. There's something that I could have done better to help them. I get a kid for either 1, 2, 3, or 4 years. That either, if they come in as a senior, I get them for 1 year, whatever else. So I want to be the best I can for them for that short period of time. And it's my wife always gets on me because she says I put too much pressure on myself. I said, listen, this is the only, most of these kids will never run outside of high school.
Right.
They'll never run. This is all they have. And so I've got to be my best every single day. I'm sorry, there's an airplane going over.
That's all right.
So in the end, I think that it's my job. I mean, I'm a coach. And if you're going to call yourself a coach, you've got to do the best you can for your kids when you got them. And so that's always made me nervous because I don't want to mess them up. Does that make sense? I just don't want to mess anybody up.
perfectly. You mentioned when we first started talking that you got to sort of bring kids into your system and they're working out over the summer. If you could briefly, what is your system? What is your style that we know we came from Antonian?
Style as a coach or philosophy is what we do.
Yeah, your philosophy.
Yeah, so we run a multi-paced program. I mean, we do we run up and down the ladder there. So um, I call it fractional utilization of the VO2, which we'll go out there and we'll get a time trial, and we'll get some time trial test times in, because I think that if you don't have a test, you know where the kid is today. And so we go out there and get a test, and just like you would in a classroom, you know, if you have an algebra test, you got to see if you're improving or not. You take a test to see where you're at, and okay, well, you know, let's take another test in 2 more weeks. How far have you gone? So same with us. And then we just drop that into a spreadsheet that I have. And then I just take percentages of the VO2 and that populates our paces. So just an example for this week, I can just kind of give you what we have scheduled for this week. So Monday we did a tempo type run, and so it wasn't super fast. It wasn't super long, but we're just getting those kids used to working on the aerobic side. And
Okay.
this time of year, and especially for cross country, the aerobic side is pretty big. I mean, and so if you want that strong aerobic engine, you're going to have to do that. And so we'll do a long run during the week. Like I told you, we do a tempo. And then when we get to later in the week, we may do another type of tempo where we break it up into segments. We may do a 4 by mile with a 1 minute recovery, but it's at a slower pace, more like a tempo pace. So they adapt to that as we move along through the season. We may add a little bit more distance to that. Okay, let's see how far we can go with this. And so a lot of the big adaptations that our kids get from point A to point B, from test 1 to test 2 to test 3, test 4, is strictly because we're just putting more aerobic on them, right? And so that's what makes our team so strong. And I mean, that's course at Cottonwood. People don't understand. That is a brutal course. That is not fast at all. I think there was 5 kids last year that broke 17.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's some good kids in TAPS. I mean, they're not all just not very good.
No, you've got a couple. Studs. You got Ben Shearer down at the Woodlands Christian.
Yeah, the kid from what was his name? The not Saint Dominic Savio, but some kind of, I forget what his name was. Abraham.
Oh yeah,
Abraham was
Abraham
fantastic.
Martinez. Yeah.
Yes, and then the kid that came in that moved into Houston, or not, maybe Dallas somewhere. What, Cheeseman?
Carter Cheeseman from a couple of years ago, yeah, and Cantu out of Done. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're talking about some really solid kids, and they're barely. Well, I think Abraham ran a little bit faster, but even Ben didn't even run as fast as Abraham did. And we're talking about a course that's really tough. So you're going to run that course, you better be aerobically strong, because if you're not, you're going to be hurting. It's just got too many rolling hills on it, and it's too difficult. So a lot of the stuff that we do for cross country is mainly on the aerobic side. So tempo work is a big thing for us. We're going to do that for a large part of the season, just so we can build that aerobic side up really, really strong.
All right. So last question here, Coach. What's going to make the 20 cross country season successful for you?
The success for me or for the kids, I mean, I'm telling you what, is having them have a season. I think that is, for them, that means more than anything. And it's easy for me to say that, but I mean, it's being able to compete, being able to finish out your senior year for the seniors, being able to do something that we're not sure still. We have hopes that it's going to work,
right?
But I think that's a success. That is a huge success for us, and our team. I can tell you that'd be great. Anything that happens after that happens. I mean, that'll be just icing on the cake, as they would say. But being able to have a season, be able to run 4 meets and a state championship. I know they canceled Nike South and all the
Right.
other stuff, but I mean, at least have those opportunities to do that, and then hopefully we can make it through track. I mean, track's fun to watch, so I look forward to track again. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Coach, that was a quick half hour. I certainly appreciate your time.
You bet, man. I appreciate you reaching out to me, and I hope you're doing well, buddy.
Yes, sir. And we look forward to seeing you soon. Stay safe.
All right, take care. Thanks.